let's talk about Watergate Cake. Welcome back to Sprung On Food. I'm your host, Kae Sprung. This season, we're talking about favorite foods, the history behind it, and the role it plays in the world today. Joining me today is actor and writer Jen Ponton. Jen, welcome.
Hey, Kate, thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure. I'm so excited that you are here. And I've got to be honest with you, when you submitted your selections, I was so intrigued by Watergate Cake because I was like, oh my God. Okay, first of all, I love cake. I love dessert. And why the heck have I never heard about this before? So this was a delight to be able to jump into it. And I absolutely have plans on making it for sure. But I
Yes.
have to know about your relationship with this food and why it is your favorite.
Watergate cake is probably one of my favorite foods emotionally and hereditarily. It is a cake that precedes me in my family and goes back to my parents and their best friends in the 70s when my mom's friend Diane came over with this beautiful many-tiered green cake. And it it's made with a ton of pistachio everything. And my mom didn't even know it was called Watergate cake. I had made it later on in life, and people were like, "Oh, a Watergate cake. That's straight out of the 70s." And I'm like, "What?" So that's when I sort of learned the history of that. But in my family, the way my parents liked to spend time together pre me was getting having a subscription to Bon Appetit and doing food challenges together and trying to tackle complex recipes.
What's
And
a food challenge?
Imagine Bon Appetit and imagine the most daunting recipe in there.
Oh, okay.
Something that requires many steps and probably a broiler. You're right. Just and maybe an overnight situation. So they would find
Okay.
the Mount Kilimanjaro of whatever the recipe was in the magazine, and they would make it, and they'd spend their weekends, probably smoking weed and in the kitchen.
What a fun activity.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay. So by a challenge, it's literally challenging to make. They weren't or did they do head to head? Was it we're going to make
they
this
didn't
and
compete.
go? Okay.
It was always teamed together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Beautiful.
Yes. Yeah, but that was their recreational activity. And so anytime a cake was in my house, and I say this all because my childhood sucked.
Oh, no.
So anytime a cake was in my house, it was one of the lighter moments. And especially the Watergate cake. So if a pistachio cake came out, it was the holidays. We were spending time with family, friends. It was something where my mom would absolutely let me lick the spoon, right? She'd take the attachments off the mixer and I would go to town. So yeah, emotionally, it's where all of the good memories are stored. And then it's just delicious and beautiful. You don't usually see, bright minty green cakes, and it's a masterpiece. Yeah, it's kind of just hits all tens across the board for me.
Oh, I love that. And yes, it's so interesting how food is so tied to feeling and emotion too. So the fact that it brings a good memory whenever you see it or hear it or make it is, just speaks to how powerful food is. I'm curious, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that when you heard that it was called Watergate Cake, you were surprised because that's not how you knew it. What did you know it as before?
We just called it pistachio cake.
Pistachio cake. Okay, call it by its name. Yeah. Aha, interesting. Yeah. Okay, yeah, and I had never heard of either, so you're far ahead of me. And do you find yourself ever making it these days for any
Oh,
particular reason?
yes.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
okay. Okay.
It's in my adulthood, it's a major part of my youth that I've reclaimed,
Mm,
especially because it's not particularly daunting. It's not one of
Right.
these many Olympic level
It's not one of the challenges.
recipes.
Yeah.
No, no, and I don't have to worry about like, will it rise, things like that. Like you can use a box cake mix and
Yeah.
you're good to go. But it's what I bring out for holidays, for my partner's birthday, for, it's how I welcome people too. Like I don't make it all the time, but if I have time to make a cake and it's an occasion, this is like the flagship cake.
Oh, I love it. You can invite me to a birthday party anytime you want.
We love birthdays over here.
Do you have any particular twists or tweaks that you make that make it kind of uniquely your own?
Do I? That's a good question. I pretty much go by you know what? I double the frosting.
As you should. Yes.
The frosting is so good because it's
Mhm.
like mostly pudding mix. So it's
Mhm.
a really unique, like you can handle more of it, right? There's so many
Yeah.
frostings that are better the less you have. But
Right.
this, I feel like the frosting is the real star of the show. So I double the frosting.
Okay, well, I very much can appreciate and like that version of it. And of course, to better understand and appreciate our food, we've got to know where it came from.
Hot dog.
Picture America in the mid 1970s. Bell bottoms swished through shopping malls. The disco was just starting to hit the scene. Convenience foods, Jello salads, Hamburger Helper, Tang lined grocery store shelves. The Vietnam War had just ended, but the country wasn't celebrating. Instead, people were glued to their TVs for something entirely different: the unraveling of the Watergate scandal. Now, for anyone who might be a little too young to know about it, the Watergate situation was a major U.S. political scandal in the 1970s. It began when 5 men were caught breaking into the Democratic National Committee headquarters at the Watergate Hotel complex in Washington, D.C. in 1972. The break-in was linked to President Richard Nixon's re-election campaign, and as investigations unveiled a cover-up orchestrated by the White House, Nixon's involvement became clear. Facing almost certain impeachment, Nixon resigned in 1974, the first U.S. president to ever do that. And after that, adding the word gate to the ending of another word became shorthand for scandal. Jen, have you, in your vernacular, ever added the word gate to anything to
Absolutely.
talk about? Oh, you have? Okay.
Oh, yes,
Do you have any
especially as a
examples?
resident of New Jersey,
Okay.
right? Because we have a lot of shady dealings down
Oh,
here in the
okay.
dirty Jers. So,
Such as?
so like, do you remember? It depends on how long you've been in New York, but do you remember when Governor Chris Christie
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
had this great big scam and shut down the George Washington Bridge? It was not quite
Okay.
10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah. No, I was here. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that
Hey,
became
yeah.
Bridgegate.
That's right. That is very relevant. Yes.
So relevant.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
that's the biggest one. I know that there are absolutely more, but like that's the one that I always have in my head is Bridgegate.
Yeah, that is the more modern version of the Watergate scandal. Yeah. Yeah, and people will, use it all the time in any kind of situation where they're alluding to some sort of scandal, just adding the tag to it. And I think sometimes too, as decades go by, people just become accustomed to it just as a phrase and maybe not know why or what it
Sure.
actually stands for. So it is interesting, but
Sure.
oh yeah, that is a very relevant, very excellent example for sure. Well, among all of the high stakes political drama, something strange happened in kitchens across America. People started baking a bright green pistachio cake topped with fluffy whipped topping and sprinkled with nuts. I mean, baking a delicious cake isn't strange, but what they called it might be. It was called the Watergate Cake, a dessert so sweet, so kitschy, and so oddly named it almost feels like satire, except it's not. This cake is real, and its story is one of food marketing, cultural coping mechanisms, and America's uncanny ability to laugh at itself through dessert. I mean, there is that saying after all: stress spelled backwards is desserts. So grab a fork. Today we're slicing into the origins, history, and legacy of the Watergate Cake. First, let's establish that the Watergate Cake didn't come out of the Nixon White House kitchens. There was no First Lady recipe card tucked away in the Rose Garden archives. Instead, the cake's true roots lie in the world of convenience foods and corporate marketing. The The star ingredient is Jell-O Instant Pistachio Pudding Mix, which General Foods introduced in 1975. Before that, pistachio wasn't a major dessert flavor in the American pantry. Let's rewind a little. In the mid-20th century, pistachios weren't yet the snack time staple we think of today. You didn't commonly buy pistachio ice cream at the grocery store, and pistachio and roast croissants weren't sitting in many bakery cases. Technically, pistachio ice cream existed before the pudding, but it was a niche flavor. Pistachios had sort of an exotic aura. Imported mostly from Iran, Turkey, and the Middle East, they were a specialty nut. People associated them with Middle Eastern pastries like baklava or with fancy cocktail hour bowls at upscale lounges. Jen, it's interesting to think that pistachios weren't a big thing in the States prior to the 1970s. And now, while they're not cheap now, they're very prevalent. I feel like there's pistachio flavored everything, especially after the
Oh, yeah.
explosion of the Dubai chocolate sensation and all of those spin-offs. Do you think that pistachios are overrated, underrated, or perfectly rated, and why?
Properly revered. Absolutely properly revered. They are
Okay.
my personal favorite nut as well.
Is that
as like a
right?
snack. Oh yeah. I feel like
Okay.
nothing beats a pistachio as a snacking nut.
Okay.
I love a pistachio in kind of any form. Think about it.
Okay.
You can keep them in their shells, and then you have like a fun little activity for
Yeah.
everyone out there with ADHD, right?
Okay.
You have an activity. You get to practice your like squirrel prowess. Or you get them unshelled, and then you just can take like handfuls of these beautiful little salty protein wonders. And what they lend to desserts is quite unique. You know, I appreciate them in a way in dessert foods that I don't really appreciate walnuts or almonds. Peanuts are kind of a give, right? But like, yeah, I feel like they are quite unique in their taste profile and their capability. And yeah, it totally tracks that they were not even really here until the 70s. But and then they went quiet for a long time. They went quiet until we all started drinking nut milks.
Have you had pistachio nut milk before?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
It's
I've
nice.
seen it on a menu. I don't know what's holding me back. I've yet to, well, I think one, not every place, I mean, and I know I can probably make it myself, but I'm also probably not gonna. But
Correct.
but I know that there are places that do have it, cafes and whatnot. I don't see it that commonly, but when it is on the menu, I'm always like surprised and delighted. And then for whatever reason, I don't get it. I don't know why. But how would you describe it to somebody who's never had it before? Does it just taste kind of like just like pistachio, only
It
a little
tastes like
bit subtler?
pistachio pudding.
Is that right?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
Like what did I have it in? I had it in they make these pre-made like non-dairy lattes, right?
Mhm.
And so there's a brand called like Stash.
Oh,
I think.
cute. I like that.
And I got one of those. It was delicious, and it tasted like pistachio pudding, not too sweet, pistachio pudding with like a few shots of espresso in it. It was
Yum.
delicious.
Oh,
It's great, you know?
yeah.
It's just like it's a warm, almost toffee-like flavor.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's quite inexplicable and lovely. And
Okay.
I'm going to add too that when they make pistachio like candles, lotions, like there's a whole lotion brand
my
that is
God.
specifically pistachio butter, and it smells
Really?
like candied pistachio. So good.
What
So
the
good.
heck?
I
I've
know.
never heard about. You're unlocking so many cool new things to me. I did not know this. I'm going to have to look into this. And I promise you, you have my word, this is recorded, that the next place that I go to that it is on the menu, I will get it and I will let you know.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. I
So-
mean, it might not be the one that you choose to be your daily situation, but it's nice.
Yes, as a little whimsical coffee treat, but
Correct.
yes, I need to do it. I don't want to keep wondering about what it's like. I just need to experience it. If it's available to me, I should just do it. And so you've given me the confidence and the inspiration to do that here today. So thank you. Well, Are you ready for a little bonus fact?
Go for it.
For decades, pistachios imported from the Middle East were dyed bright red to hide blemishes and to make them eye-catching in vending machines. If you were from any of these generations and remember your fingers turning scarlet from cracking pistachios, that's why. The US didn't start producing pistachios on a large scale until after the Iranian Revolution in 1979, when imports were disrupted. California growers filled in the gap, and by the 1980s, pistachios became a more common snack. When General Foods, which owned Jell-O, released instant pistachio pudding mixes were very popular. Jell-O butterscotch, vanilla, chocolate, banana cream. They were cheap, quick to prepare, and in line with the 1970s obsession with convenience foods. Adding pistachio to the lineup was both a flavor innovation and a marketing experiment. Are you ready for a secret? The pistachio pudding wasn't purely pistachio. It was flavored with almond extract and colored with green food dye to give it that unmistakable pastel hue. So if you grew up thinking pistachio desserts tasted like almonds, you're not wrong. That's exactly what General Foods engineered. Jen, so we've just learned that a pistachio product that isn't fully pistachio, it's kind of like a little smoke and mirrors. As an actor, though, are there any TV tricks or behind the scenes insider info or like any TV magic that is more of like an industry known type of a thing on TV sets that the average viewer or person who's not in the industry would maybe have no idea about?
I gotta tell you, this is so personal to me because I can't tolerate a heel anyway. One of my favorite things to do when I'm on set is to watch whoever the lead character is, to watch them change from their TV shoes into their comfort shoes.
Aha.
Uh-huh. So when you're filming, like I'm going to use The Good Wife, for example. So
Sure.
Juliana Margulies, who's of course a knockout, is always in these razor thin stilettos.
Bless
They're
her.
so high and so inhumanly curvaceous.
Yeah.
And the stiletto part of it is so thin. I mean, it just the thought of it makes my legs crumple. But
Same. I can't do a heel, honestly. I know people love them and
Perfect.
I know that there are advantages to it. I think also for me personally, and not to deviate, but like and not that anybody who is of shorter stature should even give a damn, but I guess I'm tall enough that I'm like, I don't need them. So
Totally.
therefore I will never. So I'm right there
Yes.
with you. Yep.
Stand on that principle. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched her stand there and, you know, for the length of a take, right? Which might be 10 minutes. And then as soon as we would cut, there's a wardrobe person behind the camera, behind the filming area, who steps forward with a pair of Uggs. And Juliana steps out of her heels and into the Uggs, and the wardrobe assistant takes the heels, and she's just there in like her whole regular wardrobe.
Yeah.
And then these Uggs, and Uggs are kind of like the default comfort shoe.
Yeah.
So much. I do not enjoy an Ugg at all.
I've never worn one before.
I don't find them, they're not supportive.
Yeah.
But also, my feet get hot.
Yeah, they're fully lined. They're very fuzzy. They were created, if I'm not mistaken, they were created, I think, for Australian shepherds.
Mhm.
So, like, somehow, I think thanks to Britney Spears, they ended up in the American culture of just wearing them casually on the streets. But
boy, I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know
either.
what my peers were thinking. But we made that awful trend
It was
happen.
a choice. Yeah. Well, to help sell pistachio pudding mix, General Foods did what big food companies always did. They handed out recipes. Pistachio pudding was featured in pies, parfaits, delights, and most famously in a concoction of pudding, pineapple whipped topping, marshmallows, and nuts that came to be known as Pistachio Pineapple Delight, sort of like Ambrosia's exotic cousin. By the time it landed in home-cooked columns and church potluck cookbooks, the recipe had morphed into Watergate salad. And as a pistachio pudding became popular, it naturally found its way into cakes. Adding pudding to a cake mix was already a popular trick. It added moisture and richness. Pudding cakes, chocolate pudding cakes, coconut pudding cakes, all were circulating in American kitchens. So slipping pistachio pudding into a white cake batter wasn't a stretch. What made it unique was the timing. Pistachio pudding launched right as Watergate was dominating national headlines. The result? A scandalous cake was born. Okay, enough mystery. What the heck is with the Watergate title, and why on earth would anybody name a cake after a national scandal? Well, Americans have a long tradition of using food as social commentary. During the Great Depression, families baked depression cake or wacky cake, eggless, milkless, butterless recipes that were practical but also carried a nod to the times. During World War I and II, rationing produced war cakes. Naming a recipe after hardship was part acknowledgement, part dark humor, and part cultural bonding. By the 1970s, Watergate dominated the national conversation. It was everywhere. Late-night talk show punchlines, editorial cartoons, and living room debates. So when a quirky new pistachio pudding dessert started circulating, people latched onto the name Watergate. Okay, but still, why? Well, several explanations have been offered for a choice. Jen, I'll go through some of these alleged theories, and then I'll do a temperature check with you and see how you feel about them. Sound good?
Yes, great.
Well, first, there's the joke theory. The cake is full of nuts and covered up with fluff. Supposedly, the parallel to Nixon's scandal is said to have practically written itself. Thoughts, Jen?
That is the one that I've heard.
It is. Okay.
So that's the lore that I have in my head.
Okay. And how do you personally feel about that? Does that feel right? Good? There's no right or wrong answer.
It feels like it's the kind of joke that someone's nana would make at bingo, and then it would just zip along the party line like wildfire. Sure. So I don't know. I think that could have actually been someone's bon mot, and then yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then that tracks. Okay. Well, next, there's the hotel theory. Some believe it was first served at the Watergate Hotel. However, the hotel has denied any connection and no evidence supports this claim. So I'm not really feeling strong about this contender, but I don't know. In your opinion, do you see, maybe they're covering up the truth of that too? What do you think about that?
Who would want to divest from the joy and whimsy of the Watergate cake, right?
Right.
It feels like if they're handing it to you, you let yourself own it.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So, okay. So that's one, but yeah, we're not really falling for that one. Okay. And then there's the newspaper theory. General Foods was the maker of Jell-O at the time, but they were later acquired by Kraft. And according to Kraft's own kitchens, the story goes like this. When the recipe for pistachio pineapple delight was making the rounds, a Chicago food editor decided that the word delight wasn't quite juicy enough. So when she printed it in her column, she spiced things up by renaming it Watergate salad, because nothing grabs the attention like a scandal. The funny part, no one's ever been able to track down the exact article or even confirm who the editor was. Much like the missing 18 and a half minutes of Nixon's tapes, the paper trail seems to have mysteriously disappeared. Dun, dun, dun. Jen, what about this one?
I don't know. That one sounds pretty plausible, right?
Right? I know. I kind of want to believe this one because it sounds like, there was something published apparently because people know about it, but how they can't find, I understand that Google was not a thing then, but how they can't find it, I'm not sure, but I can only go off of what I'm learning and reading. So
someone's not studying the microfiche.
Thank you. And that will now be the record for the second time that microfiche has been mentioned on this podcast. Yes, I mentioned it in the history of spaghetti and meatballs, which you can catch on YouTube, available wherever you get your podcasts. Yes, we were talking about looking something up, and I said that unfortunately, because the internet wasn't around then, we had to hit the microfiche, and my guest was very delighted that microfiche was even mentioned. And so now, wow, maybe this should be an Easter egg in future episodes to come. How many times does this show make that mention? We shall see. But so far,
it.
Two.
A real old soul.
Yes, cheers to that. Thank you. Well, no matter which theory you prefer, the fact remains. Naming a cake after Watergate was an act of culinary satire. It was America laughing through the scandal, finding levity in layers of Cool Whip and pudding mix. And here's where the cake enters. Around the same time, 1975 to 1976, home cooks began folding pistachio pudding mix into a boxed white cake batter, adding lemon lime soda for extra lift and a lighter crumb, topping it with Cool Whip frosting, and sprinkling it with nuts. One of the earliest mentions of the Watergate cake appeared in the Washington Post column Anne's Reader Exchange in 1975. An article joked, "A new Watergate crisis is sweeping the Washington area. This concoction called Watergate Cake is behind it." The quote-unquote bugs, aka walnuts, in the cake were cheekily compared to the infamous scandal. And by 1976, recipes for Watergate cake started appearing in community cookbooks and local newspapers. Let's talk about the cake itself because it's very much a product of its time. A standard Watergate cake recipe looks like this. 1 box of white cake mix, a package of instant pistachio pudding, 3 eggs, a cup of vegetable oil, a cup of lemon lime soda, usually 7-Up or Sprite, though in the 1975 Washington Post recipe, they stated club soda, so lemon lime soda might have been subbed in to incorporate a little extra flavor and sweetness, a cup of chopped nuts, surprisingly walnuts or pecans traditionally, and not necessarily pistachios, although I assume, Jen, do you add pistachios, or
I do the walnuts.
You do the walnuts? Okay.
I do the walnuts because that's what's in our original recipe, as well as the club soda. Yeah, I always get plain seltzer.
Okay, excellent. Yes, so sticking with the OG recipe, respect.
That's right.
The batter is mixed, baked in a bun or sheet pan, then topped with frosting made from Cool Whip, another package of pistachio pudding, milk, and sometimes nuts are folded into that, and it's topped with maraschino cherries. The result? A cake that's moist, sweet, fluffy, pastel green, and a little nutty. To a modern palate, it might sound strange or nostalgic, depending on your upbringing, but in the 1970s, this was exactly what the people wanted. Fast, simple, colorful, and a little bit fun. Remember, this was the heyday of gelatin salads, dessert bars, and recipes straight off the back of a Jell-O box. The Watergate cake fit perfectly in at potlucks, PTA meetings, or neighborhood block parties, and the name gave it that extra spark of conversation, part dessert, part icebreaker. Jen, this time period was an interesting one for desserts. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we see a ton of gelatin salads these days. Does that seem like something that should come back into fashion, or should it just stay where it was? Come back into fashion?
I don't believe in an aspic. I don't believe in an aspic, but I do absolutely. I mean, oh my God. My whole emotional taste profile is like 1970s food wonders, because my family had a book called like The Magic of Jell-O. It's amazing.
Wow.
And we have many Jell-O salads that are like in the family that, again, come out for the holidays. Like I make my grandmother's green Jell-O salad, and there was an orange one that had shredded carrots in it. And
carrots, wow.
Right?
Does it taste like does it taste at all like carrot cake, or what is it, or does it taste it's orange with carrot?
It
like
tastes
what's
like
going on
orange
there?
Jell-O,
Okay.
and then the carrots are just like a little added roundness to it.
Oh, they're like
nice.
Medallions?
No, they are. No, they're shredded. They're like
rounded in terms of like a balance.
Yeah.
Oh,
yes,
okay. I thought you meant like literally. I was like, what the heck? Okay.
That is more like the aspic.
Okay.
No, I love them, and honestly, it feels like maybe economically we're in a place where they could be very useful for people to feed their families.
Listen, you're not wrong there. What was the composition of your grandmother's green
oh my God,
salad,
it's my favorite. Yeah, she calls it lime green Jell-O salad. I would have to look it up and see like where its origin is, but it's totally in the realm of exactly what you were reading.
Okay.
So it uses lime instant Jell-O and boiling water. It uses block cream cheese.
Okay.
So you use like a block of Philadelphia cream cheese.
Okay.
And you put the Jell-O powder in there with the boiling water, and you kind of like mash it all up with a fork.
Okay.
So it's a little bit clumpy, but it's now like sweetened key lime.
Okay.
You know?
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yes.
And then you have pineapple tidbits.
Okay.
And 7-Up.
Okay.
And walnuts.
Oh my, okay, okay. This is a textural party we've got going on.
Oh
Okay.
my God,
Okay.
it is a total party. Yes, it's like opening a weird can of like cocktail mix from the 70s. It just, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's, but it's wonderful. And what's delightful is that people who don't have this like 70s profundity in their families, they look at it and they're like, it's a dessert? And we're like, no, it's a salad. I mean, there was like this obsession with calling these things
Right,
salads, and like it goes out with the food, not as a dessert, despite the fact
right.
that it's like a zesty, fun little surprise key lime pie.
Right, right. The whimsical cousin of key lime pie. The
Yes,
one who, like, shows up to, like, a wedding in a Hawaiian shirt or something.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, fast forward to the 21st century. For a while, Watergate cake slipped into obscurity, dismissed as kitsch from the Jello era. But like many vintage recipes, it's found new life in the age of nostalgia. On Pinterest, you'll find dozens of versions with names like Retro Watergate Cake or Grandma's Watergate Cake. On TikTok, creators film themselves whipping it up as vintage recipes trends. Food blogs sometimes attempt to elevate it with homemade pistachio pudding or real whipped cream. And while it's unlikely to dethrone chocolate cake or red velvet, the Watergate cake is unique. It's one of the very few desserts named after a political scandal that managed to last beyond the decade. Why? Well, probably because it captures something uniquely American: the ability to turn even the darkest chapters of history into a punchline, a recipe, or both. It's equal parts satire and sweetness, humor and comfort food. So when you see a slice of that green nutty cake topped with pillows of Cool Whip frosting, you're looking at a culinary time capsule, a reminder of the 1970s, of marketing genius, scandal, and America's ability to say, well, if we're going to go through this mess, we might as well have cake. Jen, what do you think about the backstory of Watergate cake?
I love it. I love it. It feels so of its time.
Yes.
I feel like it's very prescient at the moment. We need to
Mm.
be making hay from desserts and finding cultural resonance with them.
Yeah, totally. And had you ever heard about Watergate salad as its predecessor?
No.
The fact that there were two food items during that time, both named that.
I will
Sure.
say there is one way in which the cake that my family makes diverges
Hmm.
from the cultural norm, which
Sure.
is I nearly gasped when you said Cool Whip,
Okay, how do you make yours?
just with whipping cream. Heavy whipping cream in the
Okay.
mixer plus confectioner's sugar, maybe, but
Okay.
definitely then the instant pudding mix. But I don't know,
Gotcha.
I don't know if that was like a valid and published version, or whether my mom's best friend was like, I don't like Cool Whip. I'm just going to make my own whipped cream.
Yeah. I mean, to be quite honest with you, I think the result, well, anything made from scratch, I think always is going to
Oh,
taste
so good.
better. But in theory, I think you will get pretty much a very equal result. I would like to think in my mind's eye. I think maybe for a lot of people, Cool Whip was just maybe something, again, a time of
Absolutely.
convenience. And so it was like, oh, I could just pick up a tub, pop it in the freezer, get to it when I get to it,
100%.
whatever, use some of that instead. So I think, yes, interchangeably, I think in the same way that the 7 Up or Sprite was then adapted from club soda. So it really is just kind
Hmm.
of, yeah, doing what feels right in your soul and
Totally.
what flavor adventure or convenience ride you want to go on to. But oh, but that's so nice to know that you make it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. I get a couple of pints of whipping cream and go to town with my stand mixer.
Well, while Watergate cake isn't sweeping the nation in modern pop culture yet, you can still find some sprinklings. In 1975, when the cake first caught on, it sparked a real life shortage. Grocery stores in Washington, D.C. ran out of Jello pistachio pudding mix, especially around Thanksgiving and Christmas, thanks to its soaring popularity. Watergate cake has recently seen a serious comeback. Southern Living named it their most saved dessert recipe of the month in April 2025. Jen, are there any other pop cultural moments you can think of that Watergate cake made a mark, or any final words that you have about your favorite food?
Oh my God. I just can't wait to make another one now.
What do you think the next occasion will be?
Well, my partner's sister is coming to stay with us for a little while. So I think I might make one to welcome her, and like the three of us can split a really beautiful, delicious cake.
Oh my God. Yes, that's exciting. Okay,
Right?
you have your plans then.
I
This is
do.
amazing. You don't have to wait too long. I love it. Jen, thank you so much for joining me today to talk about your love for Watergate Cake and helping me to tell its story.
Oh, thank you for sharing all this amazing information with me, Kate. This was a lot of fun.
Thanks for watching. You can find links and more info in the description below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. See you next time.